The Guns on Pegs podcast is brought to you by ITAP Group. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Hello and welcome to the Guns on Pegs podcast. Hey! Well, we got there. I think you can do better than that. Come on. Welcome to the Guns on Pegs podcast. There we go. Thank you.
With me.
My name is George Brown.
And my name is Chris Horn.
And I don't know what I'm doing.
No, we're here. This is lovely to sit down. We've been standing up for 2 days, and
Yeah.
I'm sorry, we're settled in now.
It's very nice to have a full room.
Very enjoyable. Thank you all for joining us. So, George, you, a few episodes ago, revelled in the fact that you got invited grouse shooting.
Yeah, I thought this might come up. I had a rather depressing phone call earlier this week, and my grouse day has been cancelled, which everybody else in the team is very happy about.
So, Liz and Sean Delaney were our guests from America. George and have been grouse shooting, and they said, George, we'd love you to come grouse shooting, and why don't, Chris, you come loading for George? Conveniently, I'm at... do you know what hasn't been cancelled on the 29th of August?
The test match.
The first day of the test at Lord's. So, sorry. No, on a serious note, the amount of grouse getting cancelled is really bad news because it has such an impact on rural communities. It's not about you, George. On rural communities, and this year's pretty devastating on the grouse front, as I'm sure some of you will be aware. So yeah, sort of one out for them really, because it's not the shoots, it's the beaters, the pickers up, the pubs, all the local infrastructure that impacts the taxi drivers from Durham. Yeah. Every day, backwards and forwards from the station. It's huge. So yeah, it's not about your day, mate.
No, you're quite right. It isn't at all about my day. And as I said to you at the time, you can't miss what you never had. So I was very excited to be excited about going grouse shooting, and I had that. So that I'm going to stick with that.
And my one hasn't been cancelled yet.
I'm not going to say the word. So lots of you will be familiar with the normal format of our podcast. We're going to change things up a little bit today, but as is traditional, we are going to start with what is universally acknowledged to be my favourite section of the show. It is called, Chris?
What's that you're drinking?
So, Chris, what are you drinking?
This is becoming the Game Fair beer of choice. So, I'm sorry, I'm doubling up for second, third year. Hairy Dog Brewery down in West Sussex make a cracking pale ale.
Yeah.
So, this... Actually, my first pint of today, which is some sort of record.
It's my first pint as well. I think this is the first time I've recorded one of these live episodes even remotely sober.
So Hairy Dog Brewery support us at the Game Fair. Other people have cottoned on to this.
They have. Other stands have got Hairy Dog on them as well.
I know, I feel slightly betrayed. But
like you've been cheated on.
It's really good. I went searching for another drink earlier, went into the food village. There's always a good selection in there. And I went up to one stand, and I was like, I know this chap, really lovely drinks. And he was like, do you want this for the podcast? And I was like, yeah. He's like, I think George has got it already.
Yeah, I beat you to it. So what I have got is one of Jonty Dampney's remarkable drinks. Jonty will be familiar to some of you as the second in command at Stockton Shoot, where we had our first ever Guns on Pegs podcast shoot day. And when he's not running shoot days, Jonty makes incredible gin liqueurs. And this one, I saw him yesterday, and he said, I've got one for you to try.
You've given me a bit here as well.
Yeah, it's Golden Green Gauge. And I don't think I know what a green gauge is. No. But have you had a go?
No?
Go on.
Wowzers.
It's really good, isn't it? Does anybody know what a green gauge is? It's a plum. It's suitable then.
What's the company called?
Dampney's Remarkable Drinks. Highly recommended. So I'm going to deal with the sobriety thing as we go. I said we're going to do a slightly different format. Back in the spring, I was fortunate enough to be invited to shoot at the World Pheasant Association charity Clay Shoot. And if you haven't heard of the World Pheasant Association, they are an amazing organisation dedicated to the conservation of wild pheasant populations. I discovered that there are a lot more types of pheasant than I was previously aware. At the lunch after the shoot, I was sitting next to a very nice gentleman named James, and I don't think he'd mind me saying that he had a pretty robust approach about how to protect and defend shooting from those who don't like it. We had a very interesting chat, and I didn't think very much about it, though, as I made my way home at the end of the day. But a few days later, we received an email to pod@gunsonpegs.com. Chris, would you just refresh everybody's memory and read that out for us?
Yeah, so James wrote in and said, having had the pleasure of making George's acquaintance at a recent charity fundraiser, Clay Day in Wiltshire, and thus being enthusiastically introduced to the Guns on Pegs podcast by several other guns, I spent the last couple of weeks traversing the globe, accompanied by the extensive back catalogue to while away the long hours in steerage. During said day in Wiltshire, I was quite vocal about my belief that any attempt to appease what are in contemporary parlance antis should be opposed, for it's a slippery slope. While it is patently obvious to all that I hold strong opinions, I like to feel I hold them loosely, with the humility to admit my misjudgments. Having listened to many of your guests' eloquent deliberations on such matters, this is certainly one of those occasions where a more nuanced approach is required. And as such, I prostrate myself before the Guns on Pegs podcast altar for forgiveness. A common theme running through much of your guests' commentary is the importance of education as to the ecological and social benefits of shooting and field sports in general, whilst bringing into our sport those who wouldn't ordinarily have had the opportunity to understand, or better yet, experience such benefits. The saying, if you tell me I forget, and if you show me I remember, comes to mind. And this brings me on to my next point. The final part of this balmy May Day in Wiltshire involved an auction, in which I had the good fortune to be the high bidder on a day's fishing on the famed River Test. Privately, at the time, I knew I wouldn't be in the country to enjoy it. While I know many who would, in light of my previous musings, perhaps you would be so kind as to take charge of the matter and make arrangements for a worthy person fitting the bill as described to enjoy it. To add to the prize, and so that we can reward two deserving people, I'll sponsor a peg on a suitable day's shooting to be awarded to another listener.
So I think we should just pause there to say that is the most incredibly generous email I think we've ever had into the podcast. And I think I would like everybody to give James a round of applause and a cheer for his generosity.
Ridiculously generous, and what I love is he's set the tone for something that he cares so deeply about, to try and inspire others to keep setting this trend.
Yeah, exactly that. And he is an incredibly passionate man and incredibly kind. So as regular listeners to the podcast will know, we then invited people to send in their nominations of their shooting heroes, people who go above and beyond to bring the joys of shooting to the widest possible audience. And in today's live podcast edition, we're going to be celebrating those people, and at the end we'll be awarding those two prizes that day on the test and the Peg on a Shoot day to the two nominees who we decided are most deserving of James's incredible generosity.
Just quickly, what's the winning prize? Which one? Which is first?
Well,
can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
That shooting's much better than fishing, so shooting's first.
I'm not even going to get involved in that conversation. I'm not rising to the bait. I'm afraid you missed. But we have
no. So yes, shooting
is the first prize. It's a shooting podcast. If this was a fishing podcast, I might give you a different answer.
We got lots of nominations for this. There were some really, really lovely bits come through from, all sorts.
Loads of different people, loads of different types of nomination as well, people doing all sorts of different things.
Yeah.
And we're just going to run through some of our favourites.
So we've whittled this down. We've got three that we wanted to share with you guys because they don't actually perfectly fit the bill, so they haven't won, but they're
kind of examples of some of the great stuff that goes on in shooting.
You're all going to be able to relate to these, and that, I think this is just the sort of what's so great about shooting. I think you'll see. So Charles D was one person who got in touch, and he wrote, "I'd like to nominate my dad as a shooting hero. Here's why. Dad, Paul D, or Diesel to his mates. That's quite a cool nickname.
Diesel is a great nickname. It could be a gun dog though.
Yes.
You can get a black lab called Diesel.
I like this." Diesel, to his mates, is the ultimate shooting enthusiast. He is a key member of 2 thriving farm shoots in Gloucestershire and goes above and beyond to make the experience as enjoyable as possible for everyone involved. A retired farmer, Dad manages multiple pheasant pens and a partridge pen across the 2 shoots and enjoys nothing more than spending a summer's evening checking the well-being of his birds. Last summer, he also embarked on a project to reintroduce grey partridge to the area and has successfully released 50 pairs, which appear to be thriving and can often be seen darting out the side or at the beginning of a drive. Summer is also the time when Dad prepares his famous plum whiskey for the forthcoming season, and I recently converted an old livestock trailer into a beater's wagon. When the shooting season arrives, he really kicks into gear. Preparation for a shoot day starts a few days before. The beater's wagon is stocked with chocolates, sweets and soft drinks. The truck is loaded with plum whiskey, Prosecco, sloe gin, Baileys and beers. Baileys. He recently had a set of drawers installed in the back of the truck to carry all the glasses, the tools he might need for the shoot day. And when everything is packed, he will start preparing whatever is on the menu for 11s that day. On the day itself, he can usually be found working his dogs to find all of the last birds and any that haven't been picked. And then they end up at the back of his truck, everyone fed and well-oiled. Both shoots simply wouldn't function without him, and I personally couldn't have wished for a better role model into the sport.
So what I think is really interesting about this letter is that in some ways, I think it's quite a common occurrence, right? The shooting world is full, particularly I think on syndicates and farm shoots, full of people who are sort of the backbone of the shoot and keep the whole thing going. It sounds like Diesel does pretty much everything that there is to do.
And that's what struck me with this letter. There are so many pools that we know when you turn up on syndicates, and I think a successful syndicate needs a pool.
Has a linchpin.
Yeah, if you don't have a pool, the syndicate eventually sort of falls apart. You get a lot of change in guns and beaters and whatnot. And I think there's a lot of pools in this country that basically keep the whole thing going. And that's why we love this one, because it's celebrating the real core of the shooting world.
Yeah.
And the other thing you've got to remember with the shooting world is there are so many more syndicate shoots than any other type of shoot. All the big shoots get
Well, do you want a census stat?
Go for it.
Half of all guns shoot on a syndicate, and something like 45% of all shoots are run as syndicates.
So that's going to be about 6,000 shoots in the country operate like this, and you've got pools in each one of those making the whole thing keep going. So that's why
all those pools out there are heroes. I think that's the point we're trying to make, rather long-windedly.
He deserves a mention, so well done. And thank you to his son, Charles, for sending that in.
So our next nominee came from Kaylee and Gary Pettit, who wrote... they're in the room. They have said that their shooting hero comes in the form of Gary's stepfather, Bill. Not only is Bill shot at some of the most well-known shoots up and down the country, he has even been known on one of these very shoot days to jump into a fast-running river to save picker-up's Labrador who'd gotten themselves in trouble. He's always thinking about others. Bill has been running our family/farmers/local syndicate shoot for the last 45 years across roughly 250 acres, covering marshland up to the seawall at Medway Estuary in Kent. Some of the land is a triple SI, and he works closely with Natural England to provide nesting and breeding sites for wading birds to breed in a safe environment. Over the years, he's created several islands for the 300-odd avocets to breed, as well as gaining advice from Natural England to build scrapes for the lapwings to nest and raise their young. The nature reserve he has worked hard to create is now a refuge for redshank, geese, swans, mallards, shelduck, and a vast number of teal and oyster catchers, and this year had a new island built to attract little terns. Bill wanted to increase the number of English partridge, which we've talked a lot about in the last little while, and reintroduced them across the marshland some years ago, and the numbers had reduced drastically from when he was a child. He built 12 breeding pens where he places breeding pairs in pens annually to allow them to safely rear their young, to then be released out in cubbies back onto the marsh. Since starting this, we also have wild pairs who also breed within his marshland, and Bill is one of the very few breeders of English partridge in the southeast. Bill has successfully proved over the years that shooting and conservation go together, and he still has plenty of plans up his sleeve to continue his work. He has an absolute wealth of knowledge, and we're so incredibly proud that we get to work alongside him every day. He's been a real support to both of us whilst we've made the start to take over the main running of the shoot, and we now do the majority of the feeding and watering of the penned and then released birds, and now run the shoot days. But he's also known to throw a sack of corn over his shoulder, even at the ripe age of 89. He's a real support and encouragement whilst we shoot, and as the only female gone on our shoot, he'll always be encouraging me and see how I've shot after each drive. He enjoys nothing better than seeing us all enjoy ourselves with smiles on our faces. On a shoot day last season, he was worried that he was losing his touch. During the first drive, he shot no less than 5 or 6 rights and lefts while shouting at my husband, "I've still got it, Gary, I've still got it." At the game fair this year, Basker presenting him with the Stanley Duncan Conservation Trophy Award, which he so very much deserves for all his hard work over the last 5 decades. Not only is he our shooting hero, but we hope he is yours too, and we cannot think of anyone else who'd be more deserving of your Shooting Hero Award.
I didn't realise Bill was here. That's mega.
I think...
Round of applause for Bill. Bill, that's the epitome of a proper countryman. Yes. What keeps you going? What keeps you going to do and keep putting the passion into everything that you do there?
Hard work and interest. You have to have a reason to get up every day, go to work, and do what I've been doing since I was a boy of 14 years of age in that area. And I'll still do it today.
You must absolutely love it.
I was born and bred there. I love it. It's my passion.
The link between all the wildlife and everything that shooting does, all the predator control, the management, is so important. If we forget that, then I think we're toast.
That's right. Yes, you have to keep at it every day. You have to make sure everything's done. And to keep the whole thing going, you just can't stop. You've got to be there every day working, as I am, and Gary and Kaylee. And it works for us. And we have a lovely little shoot. And it's really thriving and getting better every year.
Well, thank you for sending that letter in. Round of applause for Bill, everyone. Very kind of you. George, you've just been told we've got to go head down there at some point this season.
Well, that sounds all right. Yeah, I'll take you up on that. I think...
yeah, that's it.
I think that the real point about that letter, though, is that... again, up and down the country, there are people quietly going about doing amazing things for nature and the countryside, not really asking for any recognition, not doing it for any reason other than the love of it and the love of the countryside. And these are the people who I think we want to bring to the widest possible audience and to share their stories with, because I don't think enough gets said about it, as you were saying.
Well, exactly, and I'm pleased that you've been presented with that award, because it's highly deserved. I've been to enough Purdy Awards over the years and seen, and I think what I love about that award that BASC have given you is, with the Purdy Awards, it's all about a big shoot, a large-scale recovery project. The award that you've received is the individual effort, and that's what's brilliant, because there's a lot of people that put a lot of individual effort in and make a big difference in their local area, but it's not necessarily on 30,000 acres of huge, great, large-scale recovery, and that's the stuff that needs to be applauded. So well done. Very good.
Very good.
This correspondence.
It's a bit emotional, some of this. I wasn't expecting it to be like this. And I'm not even drunk yet.
Ollie Park wrote in. He said, I would like to nominate Ian Matthews. Ian is a successful man and a grandfather. He and his partner moved to be closer to his family, and when a shoot that he knew of locally got sold, he approached the new buyer with intention of starting up the shoot again. He foots the bills of the shoot, which would lead you to believe that he might want to protect this for just his close friends and a select few. Instead, he asks a chap from the pub to be the gamekeeper, and the premise of the shoot literally is anyone who wants to come along is welcome. All kinds of dogs turn up and an army of pickers up. For a day that might shoot 50 to 70 birds, we certainly have a disproportionate number of helpers. Families are encouraged and the children are instructed to bring as much noise as possible. If a dog makes a mistake and the owner shows that they care and take responsibility for a cock-up, Ian is perfectly happy and thinks it adds to the occasion. In some ways, the fact that people can make mistakes and not worry about having their dog banned or something means that the guns in the syndicate and the beaters are from all walks of life, but all have a shared interest that has created a close-knit group of people from nothing in the space of 10 years. I'm extremely grateful of having this very welcoming shoot that gets me out of the house and my dogs to blow the cobwebs away over the years.
I mean, doesn't that sound like the most perfect local syndicate?
Where is this? Can we move there?
so you can't go to every shoot. I know you try.
Have I interpreted this right? So Ian Matthews has taken on a shoot, paid for it, and makes it basically available to the village?
That's what it sounds like to me, yeah.
So the guns don't pay?
I don't know. It's not clear. But I mean,
he sounds like a very generous chap.
But I think the key thing here is that, you know, shooting isn't just about the guns, is it? And the community aspect of it, with the pickers up, the kids in the beating line, everybody having a nice time, no one feeling the pressure. I think that's what makes this a really great letter and one that we wanted to share.
And like the first one, you can imagine the atmosphere on this shoot. I think that's what got me here. The atmosphere that's created, obviously, I'm assuming they head back into the pub where the keeper is the landlord.
Yeah. Good for business.
That's going to be a good Saturday evening, isn't it? But the atmosphere on this syndicate as well is what's created. And it's one man who's managed to create that whole atmosphere. And obviously, given like all these villages losing pubs and everything else, to have that central
creating
thing.
communities or supporting them. Incredible.
Yeah.
I think you'll all agree that everybody we've heard of so far are real shooting heroes, each in their own ways. So I think another round of applause for everybody who's been nominated so far.
Hear, hear.
But we have received 2 nominations that really, really stood out to us when it comes to sharing the world of shooting with the wider world beyond the shooting community. That was the rubric, that was the requirements, and these 2 nominations, I think, really, really fulfill that.
We've whistled this down, and we can't decide. I think once we've read these out, we'll test the reaction of the audience to decide who gets this. But yeah, as you say, these 2 fit the original brief of what James wanted, and I think that's what's important.
Yeah. So the first of these 2 comes from Leon Chalice Davis. Leon, are you here? Oh, he said he was going to be here. Oh, well. Anyway, Leon wrote, "Dear Chris and George, I would like to nominate Louisa Clutterbuck as your shooting hero." Louisa, are you here? Hands up, please, Louisa. Leon went on, "Since joining the BGA back in 2018, Louisa has shown an incredible attitude towards driving wild meat sales in the UK, not only by setting up and delivering a consumer-facing brand in Eat Wild, but also by her unselfish dedication to the cause. She became CEO of British Game Alliance and now Eat Wild in April 2023. Louisa's pitbull, never give up, ever persistent attitude has made Eat Wild the force it is today. There have been a few very big deals that Louisa has been instrumental in or even salvaged that shift a lot of game in the UK today. Doing all of this while also delivering a new industry incentive for women who work in field sports. I couldn't think of anyone more fitting or deserving for the award. She's the epitome of a true shooting hero."
Here, here. And Louisa has been a guest on our podcast before, so this was a nice surprise to get this one through after Leon had sent it in. But I must just go and come and grab you for 2 words. You're very heavily pregnant as well, aren't you? Louisa, you've got a hell of a challenge in what you do at Eat Wild. Just honestly, tell us a little bit about what Eat Wild do and what your role is in that, because it's so important for what game shooting is for its future, really.
Sorry, I'm so overwhelmed. I never even thought I would. Some of the people.
Sorry,
that we
Louisa.
work with,
Didn't mean to make you cry.
Pregnant and emotional. Great. No, so we're just trying to make a future for shooting by ensuring that any birds or deer or any animal shot enters the food chain. And we do that by contacting big commercial outlets like Aramark, Sodexo. I mean, Leon's integral to this. It's definitely not just me. And we do a lot of direct consumer work. So music festivals, we went to Carfest last year. We're doing Ludlow Food Festival for the first time this year. But my favourite part of the job is taking food trucks into the centre of cities. And we try and choose ones that have got the highest population of vegans or vegetarians and getting them to try game.
Here, here. What a job, hey? Well done.
And this touches on a theme, doesn't it, that we have discussed a lot on the podcast, which is that anyone who eats game is an ally.
A potential friend, yeah, exactly.
And it's so important for the social license of shooting. And we need people like Louisa out there fighting the good fight and putting in the hard yards.
Absolutely. I think getting game into places where people wouldn't usually have it, it makes them open up to the idea that when shooting then gets debated in the public forum, they have that link to game because they tried it, and that makes it acceptable. So the work that you do, and obviously all the people that you work with to do that is so invaluable, because that's shooting social license, as you rightly saying. That's it. That's everything.
Yeah, exactly that. Right, so to our last letter. This one came from Shiva. Shiva, where are you? Shiva wrote, "If this letter makes it onto air, it will come as an almighty shock to my husband, Philip." Philip, are you here as well? You do look shocked.
Philip, can we have you out of your seat, please? With a face like that, shocked as that. This is Philip, everyone. One of the finalists.
So Shiva went on, truth be told, writing this letter was a happy accident. My husband recommended that I listen to the Women Who Work in Field Sports podcast to learn more about the countryside and the representation of women. And on this rare occasion, I decided to take his advice. Assuming that this was an episode of the Guns on Pegs podcast he's always going on about, I ended up listening to your show instead. And that brings me to the point, nominating him as a shooting hero. When you described what you were looking for on that episode, someone who's been a real advocate for bringing non-shooting people into contact with field sports in all its forms, I knew that you were describing my husband. Philip is not someone who is engaged every day in shooting, although I suspect he might like to be. For him, it's only an intense passion, but a hobby nonetheless. However, for the past 4 years, he has, with no small amount of courage and dedication, achieved something quite remarkable in bringing shooting to a number of non-shooting folk. My husband works for a large institution in the city and decided he wanted to share his passion for shooting with his and his firm's clients rather than hide it by establishing an annual simulated game day. As far as I'm aware, nothing of the sort had ever been proposed, much less come to fruition at his place of work before. He single-handedly developed a detailed proposal, went through a long internal process for approval, obtained a budget and designed a bespoke format with shoot locations that could cater for novices and those totally new to shooting. I know that he had to advocate hard for the event to get it off the ground and demonstrate to those not involved in shooting at his workplace that an event of this nature was a positive, fun and inclusive experience for all. He always goes on about selecting venues that have some kind of crossover between sim game in the summer and live game in the season so that those attending learn what happens on game shoot days, helping to lift the shroud of mystery around it all, as well as the process of caring for and rearing game birds, the thrill of shooting, the work of the beaters, the different forms of field sports, and why they're all beneficial. This all goes to a phrase that I've heard my husband use before, reaffirming the social license of shooting. From what he's told me before, the result of this event over the past 4 years is the number of non-shooting people invited to the annual event stands now at somewhere around 75. 2, about 4 of the attendees have now applied for and may well have secured their shotgun licenses. 3, the event has put circa £36,000 into the shooting economy. 4, Philip has also taken many of those who enjoyed the event out on separate clay shoots on his own time and dime. Brackets, I see the bank statements. And he jumps at each and every chance to introduce attendees to field sports more widely. He's due to take one out on their very first pigeon shooting trip. And 5, the event has proven hugely popular and is well oversubscribed each year. A fact I know because Philip is constantly stressing about how he'll manage the budget versus the number of folks who now want to join. All of the above is to say nothing of the countless people that we've had over for dinner, who Philip has fed pigeon, pheasant and duck to, many of whom have never eaten the former two and who likely did not know that the latter comes in a form other than a Chinese pancake. He spends a huge amount of time doing this every year, supporting shooting under the radar in his own small way, sometimes to the detriment of his parenting/husbandry. I thought he should at least get some recognition for it.
Here, here. Big hand for Philip, please. Philip, that was a surprise to you, wasn't it?
I feel really like I've just been led down a garden path. It's like, we need to be somewhere at 4. And I was like, why? Yeah, I'm really, really totally shocked and a bit overwhelmed. And thank you.
The work that George was just reading out, that Shiva, you shared with us there, James's original letter to us was about educating others and introducing others to field sports, and that is absolutely bang on. Clearly, this is just some sort of, you're just passionate about shooting like we all are, but you've just gone that extra bit just to try and make sure as many other people can get involved with it through just leveraging the things that you get involved in.
Yeah, it has. I mean, it's a real success, but I wanted an excuse to be able to mix the job that I'm doing, the clients, the networking, with something we're passionate about, and thought, do you know what? If I could get a shooting event off the ground internally, it would be all my dreams come true. But most importantly, the focus of it had to be on those that have never really shot before or seen anything to do with the world that people like us inhabit. And so we thought, right, I want to get this off the ground for people that don't understand a lot about shooting, never met a beater, never even heard of the term gamekeeper. And we'll do that at events that do pheasant shoots in the season. My wife has listened. I've suddenly now realised certain questions in the last. It's all coming back to me now. But the idea was to mix up the clay shooting idea for those that we work with, sort of at my firm, but that also now can learn about what we do. And as I was just saying, sorry, I'm waffling on now because it's like a best man speech that's gone terribly wrong. But the last point, because I care about it so much, is I wanted them to meet those who do pheasant shoots and sort of shoots during the season, mix that up so that we have the gamekeeper out who's driving us around. We have beaters that are the instructors. We get so many people that will be engaged in a proper shoot, a proper shoot, sort of a shoot in the season with people that suddenly like, wow, what is all this? There's a whole life that goes on. And behind people like myself, they know me in the work context, but they don't know there's this big part of my life and identity. And I just thought, we'll mix it up. That was far too long. I'm so sorry. But
no, it's the passion, and that is highly, highly encouraged. So honestly, here. A big hand, please, for Philip.
Huge hand, please, for Philip.
This is a tough gig, George.
It is tough. How are we going to do this?
James's original letter was quite precise.
It was.
He'd been listening to the pods and he thought about what it is that makes a difference. And he thought about, I think he's obviously doing this to encourage more people to try and really highlight what good looks like when it comes to being an advocate for shooting.
I think that's exactly he when I spoke to him at this event, he was very much on we should go on the front foot and tackle Mr. Packham, and try and play him at his own game. And I think we have collectively, as a podcast, managed to sort of bring him round to our way of thinking that actually what we really need to do is to celebrate the really good people in shooting and the real good stuff that shooting does, and getting it out to the widest possible audience. And so I think involvement is super important.
I'm with you on this, and I think that, look, we've got two prizes. Both of them are fantastic, equally enjoyable. Take the other halves.
I tell you, I've got an idea. I know how we're going to do this.
Go.
What we'll do is we'll have a vote. But because this podcast is a dictatorship of two, if we don't like what you vote for, we're going to overrule you. What do you think about that?
Yeah. Like a raise of hands or a cheer?
A cheer for sure.
Because it's a podcast.
Yeah, showing of hands doesn't work in an audio medium.
Right. Can we have a cheer if you think Louisa should win the day's shooting?
Okay, that's quite good.
That's strong.
Okay,
can we have a cheer if you think Philip should win the day's shooting? Bloody hell, separate that one, mate.
Well, I don't know. No, do you know what? I think I know. I think I've made up my mind. Have you made up your mind?
I think I have.
Together on three?
1, 2, 3.
Philip.
Okay. Louisa, you're a good friend of mine. The work that Louisa has done is absolutely fantastic. The original brief, the reason I said Philip, the original brief of what James wanted was the introduction of people to shooting. Louisa's work does the former bit.
It sows the seed.
It's the stage before, and I think that's why I think Philip gets that. So to be honest, because you're so pregnant, a day's fishing on the test is absolutely perfect. So, Philip, you are the recipient of our very generous donors' day's shooting. He didn't stipulate. He said go on the website.
Well, it'll be a negotiation. But
I'll do it for you, don't worry.
Chris, James came to see me on the stand yesterday and he gave me this. Perhaps you would read it out for me.
What's in here?
It's a bit crumpled because it's been in my pocket for 2 days.
This is from James. He says, "My heartiest congratulations for your obviously good works in the furtherance of our wonderful way of life. While I've no idea as I write this what it is you've been nominated for, it undoubtedly takes a significant positive action for another to take the time to go out of their way to do so on your behalf, and to be deemed the worthiest amongst such august company is surely praise indeed. I hope this small recognition inspires you to redouble your efforts to go forth and share this great life of the countryside and the country sports, so intrinsically part of it, with even more people. It will take us all to show what we know to be wholesome and good with the wider world, and your actions and deeds, broadcast here most graciously by our hosts, I hope will inspire others to take action in whatever measure they are able. Forgive me for not passing on these wishes in person. George had threatened to force an interview on me, but I'm afraid I declined with a good reason, I feel. When you made your gestures, or indeed ongoing gestures, you do so with no want of recognition, I'm sure. So let that be the case in your receipt of mine. The most I wish for is to meet you both one day and hear that you once won a fabulous day on the test you so enjoyed, or your most memorable right and left, or woodcock, or elevensies, for it shall afford me the great privilege of a private wry smile, knowing those experiences went to those truly deserving. Tight lines, hot barrels, and full glasses until then.
I think I might cry.
Oh, this pod's all about the people, the correspondence. Shooting's all about the people, the enjoyment, everyone that gets involved and makes it what it is. God, I love it.
It's been it's amazing. I don't know how we've done it, but this is such a great thing.
Yeah, and thank you to everyone that wrote in. And what I love is the way that Shiva wrote in about Philip, Leon wrote in about you, Louisa. This is what it's all about. It doesn't go unnoticed. Please keep up the good work.
But Chris, we are generally quite a light-hearted podcast, so I think that
I need a drink.
We've got to give our fans what they want. The way we normally round off our podcast and the way we're going to do it today is with well, actually, we're not going to do it quite the same as normal. We're going to do a McPod desert island shooting. Do you want to know the criteria?
Go for it. Have you thought about this?
Yeah, I have. I'll do the spiel.
Okay.
The extinction level event asteroid hits in 3 days' time. Your affairs are in order. Your loved ones and enemies are reconciled. Your dogs are fed and tomatoes are watered. Before it hits, the god of asteroids has challenged you to bag a McPod, winged, furred, and finned on 3 different continents over 3 different days. Your last few days begins how, Chris?
You're going first because I forgot you mentioned this, and this is. God, this is cool. I completely
It's really good,
forgot
isn't
you
it?
said this. Where are you going?
Right. I'm trying to remember because I did come up with some answers.
So winged, furred, finned.
Yeah.
3 continents.
Yeah.
And you've got a day to do it.
A day to do it. First of all, I want to go to Slovakia in Europe, where my wife is from, and I want to hunt wild boar. Principal reason is I really, really like eating wild boar. I've never shot anything as huge as that with a rifle. They're wild boar everywhere in Slovakia. They're all over the show. I think it'd be a really great way to start off the trip. I'd then like to go to Africa, and I'm actually going to take a leaf out of Louisa's book. I would like to go and shoot sand grouse.
You've upped the ante there.
Yeah, I thought that was quite good.
That's good.
And then fishing was pretty difficult, but I had to pick a new continent. So I'm going to go with Asia.
What are you going for in Asia?
I want to go to Mongolia and catch a taiman. Do you know what a taiman is?
Yeah, I've seen one.
They're absolutely enormous.
Yeah.
And I would like to go and do that. Mongolia, you go in sort of days in a. I don't know how I'm going to get there. I have to use the time machine.
Can you imagine if you did the first 2 and then blanked in Mongolia?
Well, I think the taimen are quite hard to catch. So I think the probability of blanking is quite high. But I think that would be a pretty special 3 days, and the jet lag would be unbelievable.
You haven't got time to get jet lag.
Well, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, sleep for a week afterwards.
Gosh, it's okay. Because I've thought this was quite quick. Actually, it came to me. I'm going to start on the fur. I'm going to go to Canada, East Coast, on skis for caribou.
That's quite cool.
I once chased one on skis once, and I really wished I had a rifle.
Did you catch it?
No. So I want to go back there, basically, with a rifle.
Okay, and what if it starts going uphill?
I haven't thought about that bit. I'll start at the top.
Okay.
So anyway, that's East Coast of Canada. I'm then going to come down. I'm going to go to the Caribbean.
Okay, you're actually doing logistics.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know Pete McLeod's article on Scrypound the other day about giant trevally?
Oh, yeah.
Where can you catch them?
Mainly in the Pacific.
Right, I'm going there. That really got me. Because they sound incredible.
Oh, they're amazing. You know, you can catch them on a flip-flop.
What?
So I can't remember the name of the island, but you'll have seen it on Attenborough. There's an island where the sooty terns nest, and the giant trevally know that the terns are going to fledge at a particular time of year,
right?
And they turn up and just cruise around the beaches. And then, so what you can do is you can walk along the beach. You can find an old flip-flop that's washed up on the tide. You stick a big old hook through the bit where the thong goes for your toes, and then you tie that on the end of a fly line. You frisbee it out into the water, and the giant trevally will come out of the water and grab it. There's amazing videos on YouTube. It's unbelievably cool.
This has just made the ultimate pod. So I'm going to shoot a caribou on skis. I'm going to catch a giant trevally
on a flip-flop. What footwear is going to be involved in your next one?
The thing is,
you're going to throw a shoe at what bird?
You've absolutely nailed it with sandgrouse. That's a great shout. You've stolen that one from me. The thing is, though, I can't look beyond red grouse for the final bit.
Okay. You're just trying to rub it in, are you?
I'm going to the moor that you would have gone to on the 29th of August, and I'm going to shoot the 2 grouse that you would have had that never hatched.
I'm very flattered that you thought I would have shot some grouse.
I have to finish on red grouse. I just don't think anywhere in the world, winged game, it gets any better.
Okay, well, when I've shot some sand grouse, I'll let you know.
Yeah, that would take some beating. I thought about rock doves in South Africa.
Okay, yeah, they're supposed to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, but no. I'm coming back to
Not
North
even
Yorkshire
for the South African wine.
No, I'm coming back to North Yorkshire, and I'm finishing in a pub in Helmsley with the local boys.
And a pint of ale.
Because I don't think it gets any better.
Okay, yeah, I'll give you that. I think that's a pretty good one. That's a pretty good one. We might have to do some more of these for people.
A muck pod.
Muck pod.
So, fur, feathered, fin, 3 different continents.
Yeah.
Send them in, pod@gunsonpegs.com. Let's see what you come up with. I'm pleased with how we did there.
Yeah, it was good.
I enjoyed that.
Thinking quickly, Chris. Well done. Right, so I think that about wraps it up.
Yes.
Have you got anything else you want to say to the
No,
lovely
I just
people?
want to say thank you to James for inspiring this Shooting Heroes concept.
Hear, hear.
Thank you, Louisa. Thank you, Philip.
Thank you, Leon, for nominating. Thank you, Philip. Thank you, Shiva.
Thank you, everyone. Well done to everyone that got a mention, to Bill as well. And thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much for listening.
Well, we haven't done the rest of it yet. Before we go, all that remains for me to say is that there's a final reminder that you can get your hands on a pair of the very exclusive Guns on Pegs podcast shooting sock garters.
We missed the opportunity to show the world what these garters look like. Has anyone got any? Oh, you normally got them tied around your head.
Revoked. You can get some garters by sending us your shooting dilemmas for us to resolve, letting us know your unpopular opinions or sharing your forgotten drives, or by sharing your McPod suggestions. Send us an email to pod@gunsonpegs.com, and if we read it out in the next episode or any future episodes, we will send you some garters. We'll be back in a couple of weeks' time with a more normal episode, but until then, thanks very much for listening, and goodbye.